In this video, we will be talking with a GarageBand creator who doesn't only create his own music, but he also helps others create their music. Let's go. Hi, my name is Pete, and welcome to the GarageBand Creator Series here on Studio Live today. And today, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Jason Robert. How are you doing today, Jason?
Hey, Pete. I'm great. Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome. Now, I've been in touch with you. We've been working, we've been communicating together over on GarageBand users, on Facebook groups, on SongSpark. We'll talk about all of these groups in this interview. But why don't you start off by letting folks know a little bit about your musical background? What got you to this place in your journey?
Yeah. So music's been a big part of my life since I was a kid. My father was a band director, so as a kid, it was always growing up in the house. I remember going to contests and school events with him, and I followed in his footsteps. So I'm a band teacher also.
Wow.
And outside of that being the day job, in my spare time, I'm a songwriter. I used to be in bands, and just life happens. So now the focus is it's writing tunes and learning from other songwriters and trying to help other songwriters out there. So it's a lot of fun.
Which is awesome, and it's great because you know a lot about people from just their music and from the content of your lyrics. And I've listened to a heap of your different tunes, so you get a bit of a feel for someone. But we want to dive a bit deeper here and find out a little bit more. So obviously, the day job and then the outside job. The place that we've connected on the most is probably the SongSpark group over on Facebook. Why don't you let folks? I know a lot of people will know about SongSpark, but those who don't, why don't you tell us a little bit about what that's all about?
Sure. Yeah. So one of my buddies started the group along with a few of his friends, and it was probably early 2017. Mm-hmm. He said he's putting a songwriters club together, and at the time I didn't really know too much about it. And he was kind of hounding me to join, and I kept hemming and hawing and putting it off until finally it was. I think it was probably around May of 2017 I got around to joining it, and it was a Facebook group. So John Kell started that group kind of as a way just to jumpstart creativity, just to get the songwriting flow going again for people maybe who took some time off or people who are new to it, So for me, it was great. They have like monthly assignments or prompts that kind of help, get the creative juices going, and they call that the spark. So that's the name of the group is SongSpark because they give you an idea to start with, and then you can kind of take it in your own direction and get feedback from the other songwriters and help from the other songwriters and everything. It's really fun. We do a new song every month. So yeah, it's great. I love it.
It is great, and when I joined, when I first started connecting with Jason, and he said, "Hey, we've got this group over here," I'm like, "That actually sounds like something I really need." And I joined in December of 2017, and I remember the first prompt was to write a drinking song, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can do that." And I joined about 20 days into the month, so I'm like, "Okay, I've got like a week to write a drinking song." So I just cracked out a drinking song, and that's my song, "Drinking with You," which actually ended up my album from the next year. So, and in fact, on that album, I think 6 of the 11 tracks were SongSpark songs. So I have a lot that I owe to the SongSpark group because I think having some positive pressure and some, public commitment, those are two things that I think work really well for songwriters. I think a lot of us can get caught up in our own heads and end up with, a bunch of half and 3/4 and 9/10 finished songs that we're not actually sharing. So it's a great group, and you and John and the guys over there do a fantastic job. So congrats on that. Now, this is the GarageBand Creators Series, and you use GarageBand as well as other things, I'm sure. So I know folks would be keen to know a little bit about your experience with GarageBand. What is it that got you into using GarageBand in the first place?
Okay, so I heard of GarageBand before, just being in education. I knew it was a tool, and I kind of messed around with it and played around with it a little bit, but nothing too crazy. So when I did get the invite for SongSpark, the recommendation was to just use what I have to start with, to get something recorded somehow. So I started in GarageBand with the iPad. And my daughter actually got me started with it, showing me how to, just get a track, going and get something basic recorded. Actually, so that was spring of 2017, and I think right around that time is when I joined the GarageBand group and just started learning from everybody in the group. So I figured out how to navigate through the iPad version of GarageBand, and quickly, I say this kind of jokingly, but I'm actually serious. Got pretty addicted to it, just because it's so fun and so easy. And I know Rick Lisk had commented before that it's kind of like playing a video game, and it is, very entertaining. But I really got into it after that, and I think it was probably around the end of that summer or maybe the fall, I got a Mac Mini. So now I'm using both for different types of things. But I think I probably got started back in the spring of 2017 with the iPad and still use it. It's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. Well, and here I was assuming that you've been using it for like 10 years because the quality of your songs and your knowledge seems to be so clearly you did get addicted and crammed in a bunch of knowledge and wrote a bunch of songs and recorded on GarageBand. Because
addicted is a good word. Yeah,
it is, isn't it? And it's great because I'm trying to do the reverse there. I'm passing it on to my kids now. So my daughter's got her iPhone 5, and I said, hey, here's GarageBand, and she's like, creating her own beats and songs and loops now.
Nice.
So it's very cool. So that is awesome. So you mentioned sort of in the education world, do you find Garage, like, because obviously being a teacher, do you find that GarageBand is something that the kids get really involved with and can use, and it helps them out?
Yes. Now in my district, we're not quite ready for that in my district, but I have a lot of friends who use GarageBand, both the iPad version and the desktop version, in their schools, school systems and everything. I did take a class on it back in, I think it was last winter, maybe, can't remember, last fall or last winter, and learned a lot from that class also. But there's always, the great thing about it is, once you learn something, there's always something new to learn. That's why, being in this group is awesome because, there's somebody posting something new, a new discovery every day, so it's never ending. You could take classes on it, you could teach classes on it. There's always something new you're going to learn from somebody else.
Absolutely. And by the way, the groups we're referring to, what I'll do is I'll make sure that they're linked down in the description. So if you're not a member of the SongSpark group or the GarageBand users group, then you can go ahead and join up to those. I know many of you will be, especially those watching this series, because I know the folks that are into GarageBand are usually part of those groups already. Now, what would be your proudest moment using GarageBand, or a songwriting or a song creation moment? What do you look back on and go, yeah, that was something that I look back and go, yeah, I nailed that one?
That's a tough question. I think I'm going to answer it two ways, I think. So the first thing is, I think in the small little victories, I think that is what kind of keeps me coming back. We talked about those little discoveries all the time, but when you have one of those small little victories where you play something back, you listen to it back, and, I think we're all pretty self-critical, and, we're humans, but occasionally, you'll listen back and you'll be like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So, and that's exciting, because, I mean, not to say that I'm, not going to reveal my age here or anything, but, it's an interesting time in music and technology because, 20 years ago, where was this stuff? If we wanted to produce recordings, we had to go into a studio, or we had to have some gear in order to get something quality put together. So like, I think those small discoveries and those small little victories are powerful, and they keep me coming back. And I think if I were to kind of put it to one song, there was a song that I wrote called Us. That was an old song. It's probably 20 years old. And I used to do it with my old band, and it was really fun because I always wanted to record some of that stuff from back in the day, and it was exciting to, track it and record it and mix it and master it. And, it was a lot of fun. And at the end of that month, it's like, you can kind of just decompress, and you have something forever a fond memory, you know. So I think that's another part of it too. So yeah.
That's I like that. I like that you had one, but you also had the little victories and the little wins along the way, because I think that's something that we underestimate. You know, you kind of see the sum of the parts, and you get to the end of a year, and you're like, oh, where have I actually learned anything? Have I done anything? And then you listen to a track, or you see what you did a year ago, and suddenly you go, oh yeah, I've learned plenty along the way, and have developed what I've done. So awesome stuff. Now, what's your biggest tip? So obviously you've been using GarageBand for a couple of years now, and you would have learned a lot of things. If someone says to you, you know, what's the one tip that you'd have for GarageBand that's going to help me out and help me create? What would you say to that?
I would, not to sound cliche, but I kind of try to adopt the Nike slogan, just do it. You know, I think that, I don't know, this is potentially a rant coming, but
go for it.
Yeah, I think that, you know, just myself personally, I tell myself often that I don't have time for this, or that you know, it's too late to start this, or, you know, I make excuses for myself sometimes. And that prevents me, and I don't know why I do it, because it prevents me from doing something that I enjoy anyway, you know. So I think that, you know, my number one tip is just get out there and do it, experiment. You know, try to find a group or a forum that you can join, that, you know, you're surrounded by like-minded people who are nice, that are going to help you and not judge you if you know, create something and it sounds, you know, it might sound horrible your first couple tries. My kids remind me all the time of the first song that I put out, man. They're like, oh my God, Dad, do you remember when you did this song? I'm like, yes, I remember that one. So yeah, you know, but I think just keep going, you know, keep practicing, keep playing around with it, keep learning, and, you know, before you know it, you're gonna surprise yourself, I think, with how good things are going to sound.
Definitely, and I love that advice, and pretty much everyone that I've had as part of this series has given very similar advice, which is not that, you know, don't wait, don't sit down and learn, like, don't spend too much time. Like, I know it's weird, I say to people, don't spend too much time watching tutorials. I mean, watch every Studio Live Today video, but then go away and actually start creating, because that's the only way you get to learn, is to just trial and error. And it's weird. Like, I don't know about you, but I've found that when you're first doing things, you're trying all these things, you're just cranking the reverb up to 100%, going, hey, that sounds cool. Delay plugins around, and then you kind of learn a bit too much. I think you can sometimes do a too much study, and then you try to do things correct. You're like, no, I have to use the compressor this way, and then you sort of find, hang on, my songs aren't sounding as good anymore, and I'm not having as much fun, because I know when I'm trying too hard. And then you sort of relax again, and you get over that hump, and you do better again. So no, I love.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things that I thought was a really cool idea at the time was, well, I mean, I guess it kind of works. I would create just kind of like a generic template for myself. You know, if I get a song that sounds pretty good, and I'm like, okay, I'm happy with this mix and everything, I'll save it just as a blank song, and I'll erase all the tracks, and I'll have all my settings ready to go and stuff like that. But it does not always work for the next song. So I've, you know, learned that kind of the hard way, you know, thinking, oh man, this next one's going to sound as good as the other one. And it doesn't always work. So just, that's a good idea, but keep experimenting.
I like that, yeah, and I've because I'm a very structured person, and I like the idea of having a template and just having one thing. And like, once I've got the perfect reverb delay and compression for my voice, surely I just rinse and repeat. But then you get up the next day and you're singing a vocal, it's in a different range, and you're using a different microphone, or you're just feeling different that day, and you're expressing, you're closer to the mic, you're further from the mic. Yeah, there's so many variables there that sometimes just starting from scratch is probably the best idea. And a blank slate can be a pretty cool thing, both mentally and practically, for your music. So we've talked a lot about the creation side, and I deliberately don't focus on gear here on Studio Live today, because I think you should use what you have, but I know there's a lot of folks that love to hear about the gear. So when it comes to creating, what's your favorite bit of gear, your favorite piece of kit that you go to in a lot of your songs that you love to use?
Yeah, so I have two things that I'm really enjoying right now. I have a USB mixer. It's a Behringer mixer. I think it's the X22 series. It's got like, I think you can have 16 input, you know, channels where it'll take XLR, it'll take, you know, line jack and everything. And and that's great for my drums, for my drum set, because I've got everything mic'd up and everything, and it'll bounce all those inputs into a stereo mix if I set it that way. So I can track drums that way and get a pretty decent outcome. So I use that all the time for drums, but I also have an iRig Pro IO that I use, and that thing's great. I use that for guitar, bass. It has the MIDI capability, so I've got a like really serious old school synthesizer. It's a Yamaha DX7. I think it's from the 80s or something. So, you know, it's got like the old school MIDI plugs. It's not USB, but the iRig Pro will take that MIDI connector. And I use it for my vocals and stuff too. It's a single input, you know, thing, but it works great. And I've been really happy with that. So I think between those two items, I think that's got me covered pretty good.
Very, very cool. And and I love the X22. I've heard a lot of good things about that series of mixers, and I'm looking for a mixer upgrade myself. So I'm pondering that, or maybe the Yamaha MG series. They both get pretty good reviews. But the iRig Pro IO, as folks that have been watching this channel may know, I just picked one of those up and have been reviewing it. And I recorded my guitars and my bass and my vocals, all of them through that on my last song, and they came out sounding really good. Like, I was super impressed. Like, compared to, I used my Steinberg interfaces, and I'm like, oh, this little thing's not going to get the same sort of power for my guitars and vocals as my proper interface. And it just goes to show that you can't judge your books by its cover, because you plug into that thing and you get a really clear, really crystal clear sound. It's got a strong preamp in there. Love it. And that was your recommendation when I was asking around. You were like, I got one, it's cool, get it. And I did. It works, man. And the thing is, it's got the little gain dial on it, and it's got like a 3-color, like if it's green, the signal's happening, but it's not strong. If it's orange, it's pretty much perfect. And if it's red, it's too loud. So it's pretty simple to use, and it works really well, and it's not too expensive.
Yeah,
no, I love it. I love it for a plug and play option. You don't need to worry about lightning to USB adapters. You don't need to worry about anything. You just get it, pull it out of the box, plug it in, plug your guitar in, your microphone in, and you're away. So, I'm definitely recommending that for folks who want a simpler solution. All right, we're coming in towards the end. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you and finding out a bit more about your background here. What is the best piece of advice you've been given? I mean, clearly you've probably been talking music for decades now. What's the best piece of advice either you've been given or that you would pass on to someone about music creation in general?
I think the best advice that I can maybe pass on is don't be afraid to try new things, even crazy things. I think that sometimes when you step outside of your little circle or your comfort box or whatever, and you try something crazy, chances are you'll enjoy it, and chances are it'll kind of unlock something inside of you, some kind of new creativity, maybe take you in a different direction. And, I'm not afraid to try crazy things anymore. Whereas before, I kind of was in a routine. I had my own system, my own way of doing things, and not anymore. So, now I've recorded, kazoo, accordion, samples, all kinds of stuff. You can make music out of almost any sound, so just don't be afraid to try new things or even crazy things.
I love that advice, and I've sort of picked up on a lot of that in recent times, because probably something about having children around as well. They'll have the little toys and the little shakers and the things, and I'm just like, oh, I need a shaker sound that sounds kind of like this, and I'll just go to the toy box and just find something from there. Or I wrote a song called Home, and it was a bit of a country song, and I'm like, oh, I kind of need like a high guitar sound, like a Nashville tuning, and I'm like, or I could just grab my kid's little pink ukulele and play that for the chorus. Like, that'll work. Like, no one needs to know that's what it was. And hey, I would actually admit, in fact, I think I did admit that that's what I was using. But just experimenting and finding different things that you can record, and you're going to get different sounds. And I think too many people get hung up on doing things the right way or the professional way, and then you eventually learn that professionals actually do some of their best things are just experimentation and trying new things as well. So Fantastic. So, Jason, most importantly, where can people go to check out your music? We've talked a lot about your creation. Where would you like to send folks to check out what you're creating and the awesome tracks that you're creating in GarageBand?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a SoundCloud page. I'll go ahead and get you the link for that. And I just started a Facebook page that has some of my tunes on there as well. I'm still working on getting YouTube going, and eventually, you know, I'm going to probably take the plunge and eventually probably work towards doing an EP or something like that. But small steps, one at a time.
Absolutely, no, good stuff, and I think, you know, I have a bit of a mantra on here, which is create, record, release, which is something that I sort of talk about, and yeah, you're definitely doing that. I think just through SongSpark, I mean, getting a song out every month and creating and recording and releasing and sharing your music is so cool. So definitely go and check out Jason's music. There will be links down in the description to where you can find those. Thank you for tuning into this as well. If you got comments or questions, I know Jason would be happy to answer your questions down in the comments if you'd like to leave those in there, and you can subscribe to the channel while you're down there as well. Any parting words from you, Jason, before we finish up here today?
Just Pete, I'd like to thank you for having me on, and I look forward to hearing from anyone who's listening.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next video.